one point that he did have that I really like is just confidence. Okay. Because he's like, you come in confident on this thing. Like, he's like, and confidence just, it spills. It's contagious a little bit sometimes. I mean, am I wrong saying that?
No, you're right. You're right.
I think confidence is kind of contagious because he's thinking from a banking perspective. If you come in so confident, it's kind of, you almost will overlook statistics because someone's so confident in something.
Point.
And I just thought, I did think that was a lesson to me that I learned. I'm like, being confident, having someone come in and confidently say, no, I'm doing this much. It's going to blow up. And you just maintain such a high level of confidence all the time because everybody is relying on that.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I mean, how do you feel about that? Everyone is relying on you to be confident in your business, in the future. And you always have to have that. Even if in your mind, even if, in your closet, you might be crying yourself to sleep in the fetal position or something like that. When you walk out that door, to your whole team, to everyone, you have to be confident.
This episode is brought to you by Big Storage Ventures. We are now inviting you to team up and partner alongside us. We bring our experience hunting storage deals and maximizing the self-storage asset to provide our partners with cash flow, tax benefits, and appreciation, all in one recession-resistant asset. Leverage our sister company, Big Ben's Moving Service, to fill your facility and give you an edge over the competition. Reach out to bigstorageventures@gmail.com or DM Big Storage Ventures on Instagram to team up.
So he mentioned the other day, we were talking about the SVB bank collapse. And so he was saying, like, what happened, the big reason is because of the run-on, because everyone...
basically blamed it on emotions and fear.
And it was a big... Yes, and that is true, okay? It is true. So I had to do my own little research. And so I was listening to The Economist last night.
Yeah.
It's a podcast, and they brought in a professor of either economics or finance and from a big university in Philadelphia. And he was saying the SVB Bank had it coming. Like, you could have seen that their decisions really affected that result. And one of the things he said was that a normal bank, they have a ratio that they talk about in banking that has to do with the ratio between insured deposits versus uninsured deposits.
Okay.
And one of the biggest banks, he said, like JP Morgan, he said they'll do a 2-to-1 or something. And no, he said 2-to-1, but I can't remember if you said that was risky or not, which sounds that might be like their ceiling is a 2-to-1 ratio. So 2 in uninsured for 1 insured.
Got it.
And insured would be someone who has less than $250,000 in the bank, and uninsured would be someone who has a deposit greater than $250,000 in the bank.
Okay.
SVB were 22-to-1 uninsured with insured.
Whoa. Okay.
That bad. And he said part of the problem is they had it's tech company, tech bank, things like that. They weren't doing
famous tech bank.
Yes, they weren't doing loans. So they're famous. Their model with that, they weren't doing a lot of loans. And so they had a lot of this cash. And what they did was they put a lot of that cash in bonds. And then, with the interest rates and everything, the bond market going up, now they have, if you buy a bond at 2-3% or whatever, and now they're up at 5%.
Yeah.
Now they have this huge unrealized loss. And so it was some private equity or someone who's like told their group, we got to get our money out. Like, there's this big unrealized loss. They were going to go raise for it, blah, 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 blah. And then there was the announcement where they said, hey, we have to sell these bonds, realize the loss to pay for some of this. And then boom, the run-in goes and gone. So pretty crazy. But it's like, I'm going back to that one thing. Like, yes, that one thing was everyone running on the bank and the fear and those things. Like, it could have survived. It would have been fine if we weren't afraid, we let them raise or we let them do their thing, and like, it could have been fine. But then what would you have done? Like if that was you and you heard that they're going to take these huge losses, and if someone said, hey, you better get your $1 million out of your bank or you're going to lose it.
Oh yeah, you're going to run.
Everyone's going to freak out.
Yeah. It's like you literally have $1 million that you could pull out, or you could just take a chance it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So it's obvious. I mean, it's funny that, it is a lot of fear, and that's what's driving it. And it's funny they don't want to create more fear by talking about it, depending on what side you're on. But
Yeah. Well, one thing that they did mention in the podcast, The Economist, is that the rule, the FDIC rule is a little flexible. They have the right to adjust it if they deem it necessary. So if it's like something that like could really hurt people, you've probably heard of too big to fail.
Sure.
So like there are banks too big to fail, so the U.S. government cannot let a certain bank fail.
Right.
But
they bail them out. Yeah.
They'll bail them out. So in this case,
happened during COVID with other kinds of businesses.
Yes, and in 2008, but in this, they bet the rules. So they made the promise that they would secure and pay everybody back. It too help prevent more fear and more run-ins and other things like that, which is not good for anybody. I mean, being afraid and doing that wouldn't be good for anybody. Anyways, kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, it's current events, right? It's what's going on. So, I mean, takeaways for me are going through tumultuous times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to kind of sharpen our tools, right? Because in a hard time, you have everything's amplified in a hard time, right?
Yes.
Like we have way more risk than usual, or at least what we're used to, right? Our business careers have been through some harvest years that since we've graduated college and been married, doing the career thing. But on the flip side, everyone knows there's more opportunity through tumultuous times because some people are scared. So if you do your due diligence and you're not scared, and you know that the risk and consequences can be mitigated, you can act and you can come out on top, right? And I think for me, it makes me excited because I feel like we're going to have opportunities to compete for storage deals this year that the last 3 years we might not have been able to.
Yeah, when it really starts to settle in. I think that's a good point, and it's refreshing when you hear like an optimistic viewpoint on someone who looks at what's going on financially in the markets and says this is an opportunity.
Yeah,
and the ultra wealthy, like the rich, that's the way they see it, and those people that saw that in 2008, they made buku bucks of money.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people, they look at. Those who, in that time, were able to invest, they did very, very well. If they had it, if they had the funds and the capabilities and didn't have the fear. So hopefully they didn't get messed up by.
Do you remember when you asked, you correct me, but I think when we were like coming up with Big Storage Ventures, having you team up and come on full time, you asked like a question to the effect of like, well, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if storage it goes through a bad time the next couple years?
Yeah.
And you remember what I said? You remember what I'm talking about, that moment?
Well, there's two, and I'm thinking of a different one.
Okay.
Remind me of this one.
Well, here's how I remember it. And I
have mentioned this before because again, I'm more conservative and I get more afraid.
Yeah. And we structured Big Storage Ventures to hedge risk, right? Like
for us, yes.
Yeah, for both of us, right? But basically, I get excited because I think it's the glory days still, right? And we talk about that a lot. How it's not consolidated yet. That's a big motivator for us. Is like I see someday within our lifetime, hopefully at the end, hopefully we have decades of making hay. But at the end of our life, probably like storage will be consolidated. But right now, it's still a lot of, chaos, opportunity, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of opportunity for assets to change hands. And especially in a bad market, I think it's even better time to be in business, What do you remember?
Well, it is. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I would, I just want to kind of add to this because, we're talking about, now I'm losing my train of thought on this, that I had to point, but then you said, what do you remember? And I was, gosh dang, I'm going to a different train of thought, but, okay, here's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking that it's so hard for someone to want to let it go of a storage facility, right?
Yeah.
And there's certain events. There's only a particularly small amount of events that's going to want to encourage someone to do that. And, one could be that they need that lump sum of cash.
They're in a bind.
Yes, they're in a bind. So one is in a bind. Now, we might have people that are in a bind and will have to do something desperate. Okay. And that's hopefully, you posture yourself in a way that's never you, that you have to sell your assets at a discount in a time of desperation.
Right.
Because, maybe you weren't frugal or you didn't have a cash reserve or certain other thing, or too leveraged. I don't know. I'm not going to go into that. So there might be those opportunities, but here's the other weird flip side. So what I'm thinking is that we still need a lot of these sellers' mindsets to switch over to like reality.
Yes.
Okay. That's part of the problem is we still have so much that are clinging to the crazy high prices that we had in a little bit ago, like the crazy low cap rates and things like that. So that still hasn't switched. Sellers, there's one on the market right now, East Bay, that storage facility that we've been looking at on East Bay. That actually almost made it through, was almost a good opportunity through a transition until that real estate company took it over. But, a transition from one of those transitions that people want to sell is when it changes hands. So it changes hands to a family. And I don't remember what that's listed for, but, we've done the underwriting on that. We've looked at the numbers, and it's like facility's worth $3 million.
Yeah.
They have it listed for 3.9 or 4.
Yeah, they're about $1 million off.
And they don't want, and they're not willing to budge on that because someone's told them that it's worth 4. Because 2 years ago, someone was willing to pay $4 million for that, and it's just changing. And so, I'm going into like that element with storage. So the opportunities, like you're saying, opportunities are rising, and they are. Like there's going to be more opportunities. Maybe someone's in a bind and there's going to be opportunity there. But what do you think about how high interest rates are going? I mean, we were just talking to a banker the other day, and you've probably seen news with the Fed, and it's like they're going to keep going up. And how many buyers are going to be kicked out of the opportunity because interest rates are so high that we honestly can't.
Buyers are bowing out, right? They're saying, I think
not everyone's postured to be able to take advantage of the hard times, or else everyone would have done it.
Yeah.
Same in 2008. Not everyone could have done it or had the vision or saw or been like, I don't want you to lose your thought, but what I'm thinking is if you were smart, let's say, and you had access to the capital or whatever, and you could be like, okay, look, let's leverage this property less. Let's lower our returns, because the higher the leverage, typically there is like there's an intersect.
Yes.
But typically the more you leverage, the higher your returns on your investment can be. So, but let's say in order to combat this debt service, we go 50% down or 50% LTV.
Sure.
Then we can service our debts, and we say, I believe that we're going to have to, as long as we can cash flow, because that's the most important thing with this asset, all assets, is to cash flow. If we can cash flow this property, we don't know if it's going to be 1 year or 2 years that inflation will be under control. Everything could
be longer.
It could be longer. But again, kind of thinking of like how long did it really, it took actually some markets and some industries, they take a long time in 2008 to recover. But what I'm saying is, okay, let's say someone has that vision, they can get the asset, but they're thinking of more equity at this point. So we're willing to let go of some of the monthly dividends, that cash return. But you think we're able to get this deal, and in 5 years and 10 years, we know we have $5 million, $10 million. If we can get this asset today, we know tomorrow it'll be worth so much. Maybe that's a strategy, to take.
Well, a lot of people do, and it's kind of a mindset shift for me, because we really like to have people come on based off of cash flow, right? Because that's something that we can control. When we do our operations, we are controlling revenue, right? That's what we feel like our value add is. But a lot of times we neglect to bring up what you could call even bigger benefit of investing in a storage deal, which is the equity side. And so I think we need to be better about envisioning that. And I think there's a lot of people that invest in storage that they think of that equity piece. It's a fine balance, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you can't let go of cash flow like that, we're never going to do a deal that doesn't cash flow. And it has to cash flow well, right? Because we have certain expectations for ourselves and for our partners. But that equity piece is big to remember. And it might be that we start looking at more of those plays as we go through this time. Maybe we take a little less cash flow because we feel like we could build a lot of equity. And just like in a single family home, it's a little bit different, but you have to believe that maybe not in the next 2 or 3 years, but the rates will improve. And if we get a loan product that we can change our terms, cash out refinance with a better rate, take some of that equity out, it's another way that we need to start maybe making as big of a focus as cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple points that when you say that. One is that, like, with cash flow, we will still have, like, we can service the debts. That's the bottom line, like, most important. Because if you can survive a hard time, in order to survive a hard time, let me back up. In order to survive a hard time, you have to be able to service your debts. That's when people lose their assets.
Sure.
Is if they can't service their debt. So it's saying that, yes, we're going to have plenty of cushion, tons of cushion to service those debts. Your cash on cash, monthly dividend return is going to be less during hard time, but your equity and that potential, cash out refi. But the other thing that I think is so important that you said is just going back to structuring those deals. If you didn't structure the deal financially with a loan product that gave you that ability to, like you said, to adjust and be nimble, that's where AJ has said so much that he would rather pay just a little bit more, maybe in fees up front, or just a little bit more
on the rate
to have that freedom and flexibility that could basically save or could save your deals, save that business, or could make you a millionaire because now you have the opportunity to cash in on an opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's just so powerful to structure things that way.
It just goes into the nerdy side of storage that we dive into, right? Like we could go on for days about how those loan products that give you more flexibility, they have a different rate, and we have chosen in the past less flexible loan terms because we want to do more leverage, right? With the SBA products, we come down with a lot less money, and then we can get a better cash on cash return.
Mm-hmm.
But with these high rates, it might make sense to start looking at some of these other products as well. I mean, we were looking at them already, but I'm talking about more seriously putting them into practice.
Yeah.
I think it's a big deal. I think one thing I've learned lately from just our recent experiences, like we've been in, like, I've had you on board for, coming up on half a year now, just shy.
Has it been that fast?
Yeah, it's been fast,
wow,
man. But we've been learning so fast, and I don't think you can underestimate the value of the experiences that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've been thinking about a lot is just the need to always look out for your own affairs, or put a system in place that looks out for you. Because I think even all these people we're working with, they have the best intentions. They really love us. They want to help us. But a lot of it comes back to being egocentric. And a lot of people end up making decisions or giving us advice based off of what they think might benefit them, right? So, for example, we were talking to a lender yesterday, and we were saying, hey, we want to phase this project. And he's like, of course the builder wants you to phase it because he gets paid more. And of course he told you it wasn't going to be that expensive to mobilize because he gets to come back and do another project. We're like, well, I don't think that's what he was really thinking. And then you talk to, your banker gives you advice on the law, and the lawyer says, don't listen to the banker's advice on the law. He just wants to do it benefits him. And then you talk to, the realtor who wants you to do a transaction, and, they love you. They want the best for you. But at the end of the day, they want you to transact.
Yeah.
We've seen that a ton.
Yes.
And so it comes back to trusting yourself to look at the big picture and see all these moving pieces that are moving around you, and being able to have the skills and the people in-house, which is basically us right now. And in my moving company, we're moving towards that model as well, of just having decision makers that look at it, the best interest of the company, versus taking the advice of someone you do trust who does love you, but they might be looking at it from a different perspective. Have you seen that as well?
Oh, 100%. It's funny that that example you just mentioned with the banker saying, we're looking at it. So we're looking at a project, a new development. And we originally wanted to develop 5.35 acres, and 70% of that was going to be RV.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was our original plan, just to do
Yes.
it all in one shot.
Yes. And we have since, like, as we've done research and we've looked, and as we weighed out, pros and cons, odds, demand, supply, all that fun stuff we won't get into, that's a little more technical. We decided to cut back part of the development of the RVs, some of the RVs, not the climate control, but to cut back on some of the RVs. And
Only build on about half the land.
yes. And there's a lot of reasons why we think that is a very strategic decision in our benefit. Okay. But when he said that, he was like, oh, of course the builder wants you to do it in phases. I was thinking the exact opposite. Okay. I was like, why would a builder want you to push a project down the road? He wants to do the whole thing right now.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking like a $6 million project versus a $3 million project. So guess who, ironically, wants the deal to be bigger? Someone who's going to get a bigger chunk of the cut.
The lender.
The lender.
Yeah.
He wants to do a $6 million deal. I mean, that's what came to my mind. I'm like, all the builders, I would be skeptical if they said, no, build it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because they're so, like, you're weighing out a lot of risk in a new development already. So I thought that was funny, that one is because even though he's saying, yeah, of course, the builder wants you to phase, I was thinking, I think more maybe that sounds like the lender wants.
It's like, you don't want to have two loans. You don't have two loans on this.
Yeah.
Just one loan.
Yeah, just one.
Keep it clean. And he has some good points. I mean, really, we do feel like we'd probably be safe to just build it all out at once. And we're going to revisit that because I do like that idea. The downside to phasing it that was brought up again is just that, cost of building is at as low as it's ever going to be right now. It's not going to get any lower. So if we do this other phase later, our cost of construction will go up, but we won't have to service. We'll be able to cash flow faster this way. And it leaves us flexibility. Sorry, hold your thought.
Yeah.
Leaves us flexibility on what we can do with that. If we build on half the land, then we can look at that back half and we can either put more if the climate control does this hit as much as we think it is, we can put that on there. If the RV's a hit as much as we think, we can put that on there. And maybe we could save up. If it's a huge hit, we could put a triple decker thing there, when they put the beltway in. But the point is you can see all these pros and cons.
Yeah. One point he did make that I do like, and what I really like about him is that particular lender is very direct, and he is brutally honest.
Yeah.
And it's actually rare to have someone who will literally, like, borderline be, for some people he could come across rude. Didn't to me.
It was perfect for us.
No, it didn't to me. But
we want someone who's going to tell us straight.
Oh yeah. I think that I really, really respect. And I think we're going to use him, and he's very successful because he's honest and direct with people. One point that he did have that I really like is just confidence. Okay. Because he's like, you come in confident on this thing. Like, he's like, and confidence just, it spills. It's contagious a little bit sometimes. I mean, am I wrong saying
No,
that
you're right.
confidence
You're
is,
right.
I think confidence is kind of contagious because he's thinking from a banking perspective. If you come in so confident, it's kind of, you almost will overlook statistics with because someone's
Yeah,
so
it's not a
confident in
bad
something.
point.
And I just thought I did think that was a lesson to me that I learned. I'm like, being confident, having someone come in and confidently say, no, I'm doing this much. It's going to blow up. And you just maintain such a high level of confidence all the time because everybody is relying on that.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I mean, how do you feel about that? Everyone is relying on you to be confident in your business, in the future. And you always have to have that. Even if in your mind, even if, in your closet, you might be crying yourself to sleep in the fetal position or something like that. When you walk out that door, to your whole team, to everyone, you have to be confident. Am I wrong with that?
That's a good point. You have to be collected. Yeah, you really do.
Or you could lose control, like we were talking with the run in the banks.
Yes, let's talk about both. I want to talk about this deal specifically, and then get into confidence maybe a little more broadly, right? So this deal specifically, maybe we shouldn't get too in the weeds, but basically, I want to be confident. Confidence is what I want to bring back to the team, right? I want to say, hey, team, you guys are partnering with us. We have such a high degree of confidence on this, and I think I could maybe be more confident, even being like, okay, look, we're going to fill up so much faster, and we're going to have more flexibility. So if our climate controlled goes off the charts, we're going to make you that much richer because we're going to put more climate control in the second half. But if it doesn't, don't worry. We can put more RV back there. Mm-hmm. We know that's going to sell like hotcakes. So it's basically an experiment, and we can be that much more confident about the future. Where if we build it, we could build it all out in RV, and we know we would fill it up, but that would be a little bit more conservative. And if we put it all out in climate control right off the bat, we'd probably be overbuilding the market. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you can be more confident. And I think it's, the big benefit you're talking about is to a bank, they want to see confidence. But I also think in the back of my mind, I've pushed through things. I'm a very confident person, and I think I come across that way too. I pushed things through where, I could have made adjustments. And if I think to myself about my teammates, the people investing in us, the partners, right? Sometimes, I think we'll get a bank, especially on a smaller project size. But if I think about their bottom line and the returns they're going to see returns faster with a little bit smaller project. And their returns are going to be higher. And yes, there will be another step of making that decision to phase later. But I'm actually not as concerned about the banks anymore. On this project specifically, I'm not concerned about lending. I'm more concerned about seeing some success because I'm having my family and friends partnering up.
Mm-hmm. What actually matters, which is demand.
Yeah.
And the ability to leave something up. I mean, they're going back, maybe to take back a little what I said. I mean, maybe good research and statistics can make you more confident.
Yeah, and having the conversation with him, he's like, "Well, come in and be confident." Like, dude, we're super confident
of what we have.
Yeah, it's like, you can be confident about building on 30 acres worth of storage, but the smaller your facility is, the more confident you are you're going to fill it up faster. It's just numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and you obviously want to build big facilities. There's a lot of upside. That's our goal, is to build these big facilities, but we can do these size of projects and take care of our people better. We would be swinging for the fences, and we might hit a home run if we went and build on 20 acres out there. But I think building on 2.5 acres, it's not a home run, in terms of just like getting millions overnight, but you can know that we're going to be successful because we've studied demand and we've counseled with people, and we know, okay, we can do at least this, right? We still might go back and do RV back there. I don't think I would fill out the rest of the space with climate controlled, but just my thought process, I'm super confident, and I don't want phasing to look like a lack of confidence. It's just I can be even more confident.
It's more like a hedge on the future and on on opportunities. There's a couple of things. One, like with the business, that I had a thought, and then hopefully I don't forget my other thought. But
Say them both.
Yeah, I know. There's one. No, I gotta start with one.
No, say them both so I can go back and remind you what you said.
No, I can't even. Now I can't even remember my second one. You already got me distracted. Okay, so number one, I'm thinking about like just the dichotomy between us. Okay. And maybe a really powerful strategy is not like good cop, bad cop. I mean, there's a reason why that gets thrown out, but it's like you're the bullish, super confident one that when like you talk to people, you need to tell people how it really is. Like, because you've had that experience, you had your first facility, you blew it out of the water. It's just, you did so well with that. And we have to be very careful now when you look at people, you have to be careful that, that you are like upfront with people.
Yes.
Like you have to explain the risk, because now there's like, our lawyer could literally hang us with the news if we don't explain,
overpromise, and underdeliver. We're in a lot worse spot than if we underpromise and overdeliver.
Yeah, but people, it's strange, but people are craving these crazy returns and this overconfidence in stuff. I mean, so many people, millions and millions of people, they get into MLMs and they get into Ponzi schemes and they get into all sorts of, trouble with themselves because they have someone who is so confidently telling you, oh yeah, I put this money in, you're going to get so much back. Right.
Yeah.
And how do you balance that? And part of me was thinking like, I can be the conservative numbers person. You can blame all of that on me. You can blame all the, the underwriting, the slide decks, like all that stuff that I put in there. It counts super conservative between you and me. Like this, I'm really confident that this is going to be successful, and put that ease. That was just one thought.
Agreed. I mean, we do this all the time, just us. Like when we're in our war room, it's just the two of us right now. And I say, okay, Kallan, talk me out of this deal. And then I flip it and say, okay, I'm going to talk you out of this deal. You talk me into this deal. So me and you, we trade hats. We say, okay, you play good cop, I'll play bad cop.
Yeah.
And we actually set aside time for these arguments of, okay, you're the one that's going to try to pick this apart, and I'm the one that's going to try to push it through. And that's where we get into the art of storage, right? Is basically you have a spreadsheet, you've done your research, but you can make that whatever you want it to be. And
yes, you can manipulate a spreadsheet in any way.
Yes. And so you just have to be honest as you can. But that's why we trust this asset class is because, we are good jockeys, but the horse is self-storage, which is really what we want. We want people to invest in both, in us and in the asset class. But that's really what it comes back to, is just knowing that if you do your research and you're conservative, then you might be able to just go ahead and over deliver when you put it into action.
Yeah, I would maybe, taking back what I said, like having someone, that's a really good sign in someone to invest with, especially in this industry. Someone who is weighing out risk, someone who's studying supply and demand, someone who is being conservative and being realistic. It's not just conservative, it's being realistic with a lease up that could happen.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important that we do that, and that we stay true to that, and that we don't get caught up in, I think that would be the end, is if we started
promising upside.
Yep. If we started over promising, I think that would be, if that ever happens, then I should get slapped in the face. Cause I hope that never happens to us, where we do that, where we stick to our guns and stay true. Cause what do you think about what AJ said on the call the other day? This is what I want to bring up, this example.
Yeah.
This guy, he builds the storage facility. We don't know where, but he builds the storage facility in 21, right?
Yeah.
And it just blew. It was so successful. So guess what? It was so successful. He made so much money. Guess what he does? He turns around and he starts 7 new developments the next year. And which is not wrong, but the way he made money in that first one, it was like not sound principles.
Right.
Do you kind of remember the
It
story?
was event-based investing.
Can you fill the gaps on this story and what happened?
He basically was building storage facilities at, let's say 15 cap, and then he would flip them and sell them for 6 caps, right? But then, or maybe let's change the numbers a little bit. He was like building them for a 9 cap, and then he was selling them for a 6 cap.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically he got to where he couldn't sell them for a 6 cap anymore, and he was underwater because he was building them to flip them, basically.
Building them to flip them, and really got himself into trouble because he thought, oh, this is what it is. He thought that if you just picked a random piece of land in the middle of nowhere and threw storage units up on it, that you could sell it for 6 cap. That's how crazy, the market has been. That's the guy. And I might be confusing with the other guy who literally who's invested millions and millions of dollars and got told there was a quote that like there's a floodplain and just out. I mean,
$2 million.
$2 million
is what it ended up being, and he was quoted $200,000 to remove a floodplain.
Yes, to be out of the floodplain. Just insane. But I think the big example is the one where he builds up randomly a storage facility. He gets lucky based on the times and the circumstances with that storage facility, and then just goes out and says, okay, well, I can pick any random piece of land and fill up storage units. This is foolproof.
Right.
And there's more to it. There's a lot more to it. And now he's in big, big trouble because who's gonna buy it from him now at this point? You have to base things off cash flow. You have to do the research with demand. You have to do the right amount. You don't want to overbuild a market, overbuild a unit type. That's something that's unique with us in this. We're building not just like storage, we're building the unit type, the mix. We're building the unit mix that this market needs.
Yeah. It's a skill you learn. Like my first facility, I call it the guinea pig because I was kind of just guessing, if we're being honest. And I got lucky on my guesses, but now I can go in and fine tune it. And on these next deals, I know exactly how much of each unit I want. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it just is a big advantage to our future outlook. But I think it goes back to the under promising and over delivering. I think it's just in any kind of business, like with my moving company, there's a cool gun company in town, right? And Modern Warfare, they're sweet.
Warriors,
Modern Warriors.
Yeah.
Okay, so Modern Warfare is the game. Right? I moved for a video
Modern
game.
Warfare 2.
Yeah,
great company.
Nazi zombies. So, anyways, like I was quoting their move, and at first, when I first was quoting moves, I would kind of try to guess low, and it could, most of the time I was right, but it did get me in trouble a time or two. Mm-hmm. I went to this gun company. I was like, okay, you guys have a really big space. It's going to be like $6,000 to move you, right? That's the ceiling. And then it came in and it was like $2,400, and they were thrilled, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do with these partners is basically the same thing. Where it's like, okay, once it's stabilized, you're going to get a 5 to 10% return that first year. You know what I mean? That once it's stabilized. But then we know in the back of our mind, it's like, that's not what happened with my St. George facility. We were 5-6 times that the first year. You know what I mean? It's just but it's a balancing game, because if you make it look too bleak, they're like, well, I could just put it in bonds for a lot low risk. So you have to make sure you bring up the equity and the upside as well. You say, okay, that's there is an upside, but the floor is your bonds. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's a dance that we have to deal with. But
yeah. So what other lessons do you feel like you've learned with this new company that you've started?
I feel like one is, we talked a lot about this with Rob, is just momentum, right? Knowing what it's like to have a business in its infancy.
Or Jen's company's momentum.
Yeah. Jen's momentum. But I was talking about Rob with
Rob was
slitting your wrist for some more blood to sacrifice on the altar of business, right? So I think having a business in its infancy again, like, because I had my moving company in its infancy, and there was a lot of sacrifice, right? But I'm still making sacrifices, but I'm kind of removed from what it was like to, I still remember, but it's not part of my day to day. And then do the storage facility, and there was a lot of sacrifices, you know, going to banks, you know, figuring out with the builders, just figuring out with the city and all those things. And then that's been going for a couple of years. So this Big Storage Ventures, I'm back to infancy. I'm back to laying it all on the line again. And it feels good. It's exciting, right? And I think it does feel good to me because I did a service-based business and then one facility. Now we're doing a real estate investing business, basically. And I think those experiences of feeling those emotions and watching the sacrifices that have to be placed upon the altar, let's say, and going through that a couple times helps me to stay level-headed, even though right now we're just starting to get that momentum going. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's hard. I mean, we've talked about it with Rob, and which is a really great episode. You know, him talking about having that negative $300 in the bank account today.
Yeah.
And you know, I wonder. He said the business was growing and growing, and it was just he just had to, he said, bleed a little bit more into it. So it's crazy.
Well, I think it's important that you have the vision of the life cycle of the company. Mm-hmm. So when you are in infancy, right, then you become a toddler and you stumble and fall a couple times as a toddler, mm-hmm. right? But then when you grow up and you're a mature company, you look back on those times and you say, okay, what's the next sacrifice I can make? What's the next venture I can go ahead and do? And I think it's been really healthy for me because I've had to go back and grind with, you know, we were grinding together on all this stuff we're going through. And it's a lot of fun. Like it really is exciting. Like Rob said that when they, you know, now it's fun because Ahmad is a mature business, but they look back on those times in the grind. And I feel like for us, we're going to look back, like, remember our first 6 months? Like all those hard knocks, all those things we learned, man, like and it's good to have that perspective now. Cause I feel like other people starting businesses for the first time, they don't have that perspective of like, this too shall pass. We're learning from everything we're doing. You know, Paul, our lawyer, he said, you guys have to take a step back every once in a while and look at all the experience you're earning. Cause basically right now we're still getting things through the pipeline. We're still figuring out how to oil our machine to get it going. But all the experience we're learning is priceless.
Yeah. You know, it has been pretty priceless. And who knows, only the future will tell that the value of the things that we've been learning. But I just, you know, I got a lot of things going through my mind. Just the experience that I'm getting in just so many aspects of, you know, it doesn't really feel like a job or anything. And it just feels like it's like life, you know?
You know why? Because there's nothing that I ask you to do that's mundane. Like every single thing that you do freaking matters. Yeah. Like every single day, there's a lot on the line. Yeah. And so you're not asked to do something stupid or something that like doesn't make a big difference to the bottom line. Every single day you come in and you provide serious value to yourself and others. And that's when your work goes from like a job to like a career and like a business opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. You're making big decisions, you know, and the research and the underwriting or the numbers, all those things can affect thousands of dollars and lots of people. I was just thinking of like just everything I've learned with banks, loans, so much. Like I've gotten a lot of good experience, and that's pretty powerful experience to understand money, to understand loans, how they work, how to, you know, get money. Another really, really valuable skill, which is fundraising. Yes. That's a very, very valuable skill. It's most this research in general, like understanding markets, how to do analysis, and things like that are just, they're a pretty big deal. And then everything we've learned about contract law, about contracts, how important contracts are, how important things need to be in writing, how to handle certain situations. I mean, we've learned so much from, just one of our other deals about like assignments, contract assignments, what to do, what not to do, what needs to be in those contracts. There's so many things. If you go through the motions in real estate, and like I've never been a real estate agent. I've never wanted to be a real estate agent, but I'm like basically a real estate agent right now.
That's just one thing.
It's just one aspect is like, I'm like doing everything that a real estate agent does.
Real estate law. Like you've had a crash course in real estate law.
Yeah, I could be I could be a real estate agent. Like from what I do, I'm basically that. I just don't do commissions,
Right.
Or like a real estate commission, which is a very good thing that we structure, our partnership in that way, because I would have done this, and everyone says this, but it's like, I'm making a decision that's best for us. I'm not making a decision so we can close, so I can get a commission on a deal.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to push something through. Oh yeah, I really want this so bad because, I'm going to push it through, or I'm going to tell you things like you could word things a certain way and you could just deceive people to doing something that's not in their best interest. And it's like, we don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. And I'm glad that it's that way, that I don't have to do that. We can always do what's best for you and the partners. And that's what I want. Like I said, I get excited. I want people to make a lot of money. Like that's my goal, is for people to make tons of money and just take care of them. It's like help them build that wealth and the freedom that everyone's getting into storage for.
Yeah. A lot of people that we are partnering with are our loved ones, right? So it's especially heavy, but exciting, right? Because we got a chance to do something great for them. And I going back to like experiences, right? Like you've gotten a crash course in real estate law. You've gotten a crash course in underwriting, hunting deals. You've gotten a crash course in construction.
Yes, in construction.
Like you pretty much can estimate a construction project.
Yeah, construction estimator now, and permits, government, cities. I forgot about all that I've learned with like the cities and government and stuff like that. I mean, we just, I don't know when we'll post our podcast with Matt, but it's just like that one example of like, of trying to go through the city and how it all works and stuff. Like that's pretty powerful stuff too.
Yeah. And the stuff that gets underestimated on the front end, right? Like people that want to get in the storage game will underestimate how difficult the city is going to be to deal with. It's sad, but it's just the reality.
Yeah, it's reality.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
It's amazing, man. I think you've packed a whole career into like 4 or 5 months. You know?
I mean, there's a lot of branches. I want to see everything being successful. I mean, you can see, like you said, the 5-10 years, what it could be. It could be absolutely amazing for so many people.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a grind. It's not easy, and there's a lot of things that could come up. I always wonder, and I always think about the difference between like, hey, is this something you should cut and bleed more into, or is this something we need to cut off, and stop? And I wonder, how do you know that, or what metrics do you look at? And
what comes back to your business, I'll say 2 things: your business plan, and you got to look also at your path forward and your path behind you, right? The big thing is, and this is from Rob. He said, when I asked him the same question, I said, when do you know when you're just bleeding more for the cause and it's going to get better versus when you're chasing bad money with good money, right? And he basically said, you got to know your business plan. You got to have it. You got to have a timeline of when this is supposed to change or when you need to make adjustments, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing. But I think you can also measure it off of how much are you growing? How much are you changing? Where does your outlook look like in the future? If you're spinning your wheels, if you've been doing the same thing in a business, bleeding without making changes, I mean, and it's the age-old saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting them to change, right? So you have to be able to adapt, right? Like if we wake up and we do the same thing and we're not growing, we're never going to make it. But I think what gives me encouragement about our venture is we're adapting, we're growing, we're gaining so much experience. No one in the whole world could look at me right now and say, "Oh, you haven't grown this year." We have freaking done it. We have freaking dived in to this process, and we haven't hesitated. I think that's what being willing to invest in a business head first. Talk about confidence. Confidence gives you the ability to just put your head down and go, and not to put your head down without seeing where you're going or where you've been. You still have to adapt, but put your head down enough just to work on something and grow. And I think that's really what this venture has done for us.
It's always been one of your strengths. One of your biggest strengths and qualities is being able to go after something and to, pull the trigger on things. And it's right. I mean,
you're
like questioning like whether that's you or what. Or you want me to reword it?
I'm not going to deflect it. I think I'll take the compliment. I mean, you do have to recognize, you do have to take some of your superpowers, and mine is being willing to play big, right?
Yes.
Like, I'm willing to play big.
Yes.
A little bit of, I don't want to say this loosely, like, I'm willing to take the risk if the consequences are low, right? I'm willing to take a good gamble if the odds are in my favor, right? And not to say that I ever really am like gambling with our business, but there's always a risk of there's always a risk of losing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're never safe. You're never safe with the job. You're never safe with the business, right? You're safe once you have 10 billion sitting in a reoccurring thing. But at this point, I'm willing to put our, me and my wife's living on the line to double down and take what we have from the moving company and put it into this. And that's because I feel like I only have one life, and if I'm going to maximize it, I got to get going on this real estate investing company.
So this is along the same line of something I want to talk about and see if we could dissect into a little bit more, because I'll just tell you what's going on in my mind is just, talking to Rob, and Rob talks about, we're working towards something. We're working towards freedom. Like, we're working towards like just that ability for what? I mean, to just relax and be done with something, or just to be able to like coast off into the sunset. Like, I don't know. We're looking for something, but then Rob says like, but it's those hard times, it's when you're being stretched. That's when you're growing, and like when you're putting yourself out there and when you're getting out of your comfort zone on something. So why did you choose to get out of your comfort zone? Because could you not have just coasted off into the sunset with your moving company and just like kept going on that, like, right? And you could even just doing a storage deal here and there on your own, like maybe, I mean, depends on where, but like, could you not have just coasted off in the sunset and
it reminds me of basketball. We love playing basketball, and at the end of the game, sometimes you have if you have a lead, you have a decision if you want to pass the ball around and run out the clock, or if you want to try and score, right? If you have a good team,
how much are you up?
Well,
how much are you up? Because like, are you up 15, up 10, you up 20? Are you gonna keep pushing, or do you want to like put the secondary? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm talking about a close enough game where you're trying to burn clock.
Oh, I see. This is the game's really close. You might be up 5 points, 7 points, but it's like
you want to burn the clock. But sometimes if you just try to burn the clock,
it comes back.
They catch up with you. It comes back to bite you
because you lose momentum.
That's what I care. That's what I think of in my head, right? I'm a sports guy.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of my life like that, right? Like I have a little lead. I really could just spread it out, not dice five, but like basically like you do the 5 out, you pass and cut. But here's what freaking happens. If you get that and you lose your aggression, sometimes they can steal the ball. Sometimes they can trap you. And even if you've practiced that, you're probably better off sometimes just try to just score.
Going after it, yeah.
Yeah, if you just try to keep running your offense, like don't make dumb decisions. Don't push it. Don't make turnovers. Still eat a little bit of clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, once the shot clock hits 12 seconds, you better freaking try to score instead of running the clock down to 3 seconds and you take a bad shot. My point is you don't need to lose your you need to keep running your offense, keep being aggressive until you got to put that lead away. And I'm just not there. Like my wife asked me when I started this, she's like, when is enough enough? I'm like,
Yeah.
babe, we haven't even done 2 deals. Come on. It's not yet. I'll tell you when enough's enough, but it's not yet. Right. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but my answer is simply like, I feel like I'm not, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm there yet. I don't feel like I'm at that point where I can just let off the gas and coast. Right. And I think part of it has to do with just, you want to continue growing and stretching and see how far you can go. But at the same time, you don't want to get comfortable with a little lead. You know, that's a bad play and it'll catch up with you. You'll be, your expenses can rise. You can have more kids. You can have something sudden come up, right? Like a life-changing event. You do not want to get comfortable.
No, it does answer my question. It makes more sense. And I think that's a pretty good analogy, you know? So like the follow-up is, and I think about these things all the time, but is there a number then? So
for me, yeah.
Okay. Wait, before you say that, because let me just give this example. Like AJ, you know, he's coach. I don't know. They're at 350 million in assets. Yeah. And it's like balls to the wall, pedal to the metal right now, you know? And so I wonder, like, would that type of person, you know, like a person who is getting after it, kind of going back to what Rob said, like a person who always, you know, is wanting it or craving it or whatever. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like, would they ever stop? Is it possible to be like, okay, yeah, I made it?
Everyone's wired a little different.
Yeah.
I think at that point, you're motivated. You get motivated by something else, right? And so, guys, I mean, we can group AJ in there, but a lot of times the people you see is like the Elon Musk type, right? Like Elon Musk, he could just cash his chips, dude. He's set. But he's like trying to change the world. He's trying to travel to space. He's trying to, you know, I think secretly, like he's trying to be a philanthropist, but also secretly he likes being relevant. So he's going to keep pushing to stay relevant. Like it's got to feel good at least a little bit to be the richest person to ever live. You know what I mean? I think when you talk about AJ probably just has a desire to give back. I think he has that mindset of, hey, I need to grow as long as I'm here. Like he's not ready to retire. And I do think he has that ticker that he's going to keep pushing himself as much as he can. But you do observe that people get to pick which roles they want to take on, and they delegate a lot of their stuff. And AJ's talked about that extensively, how he has to he had to get out of the way of his business, and he had to just put awesome people in place. And even though he's the brains of the organization, even the high level stuff is all taken over now.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I think for me, yeah, like you're trying to get to that point where you can do missionary work and just be there for every single thing with your kids. But I don't think you ever really want to stop working. You know, you always want to keep working at least a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's just a board meeting every so often, making big high level calls and putting the vision into place.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, as I think of like farmers, you know, they always talk about farmers being some of the happiest people.
Yeah.
And especially, and they live long. And I've been told that like one of the reasons why farmers live so long and have lived such happy lives is because they always have something to do. Like they're always working.
Yeah.
My great grandpa, he was in the garden in like literally until the day he died. I mean, and that was at like 97 years old. Like he was literally in the garden that same day. And it's like having that something that you're doing. I think even if I could stop working right now, I wouldn't stop working, if that makes sense. There's just so much work that needs to be done, and like you don't feel fulfilled as a human being by doing nothing.
Right. And
by getting to the point where, what do you do at home? Like, let's say you're done. What do you do? Watch TV all day? Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah. You're gonna want to fill your time, and maybe you can do it with more meaningful things. And I do want to talk about that because something that's had a big impact on me. I've mentioned before, like the Follow Him podcast.
Yeah.
there was a guy that came on and he shared this experience. He shared an experience with his mission president. So he said that his counsel, like his final counsel, with his mission president was to make yourself available to serve the Lord. That was his counsel. And then he gave an example about this man who literally, like, everything in his life, he devoted so much service to the service of the kingdom. And he was the one where he got called to do like one thing, volunteer. And it's like, it was one of those callings, like a regional calling that you're supposed to keep a job and stuff. And he's like, no, I can do it. Like he had the availability to do a big calling, you know, where other people can't because of work. And then he was available, you know, to serve as a mission president. He was just available in so many things. And he ended up passing away from, like, one of the most amazing human beings ever that like gave his whole life. And he ends up passing away from cancer. This guy on the podcast is talking about him. And he said he's based all his decisions off of that one advice, making yourself available for the Lord. And so I've been thinking a lot about availability and how powerful availability is. He said he picked his wife because of it, you know, someone that would support him in being available to serve the Lord. His career, he picked his career with that advice in mind, the end in mind, thinking he wants to do something where he'll have that freedom and that ability to serve if he wants to.
Yeah.
And I think like it applies to a lot of things in life. If you're being available where you have just enough where, you know, you can hop in on an opportunity. It could be financially, you know, where like financially you prepare yourself for opportunities that could come.
No, I mean, it's the goal, right? I mean, if you look at it, most of my days, like last night I looked at the clock and it was like just before 8 that I got to stop working, right? Because I have a catch up list after all the BSV stuff in the afternoon, then I catch up again on the moving company. But there's also days where I get to leave, I can cut out at work at 3:00 because we're taking the young men kayaking, and where a lot of people aren't available to do that. But it's like a service opportunity. It's fun too, but it's something that I can make sure I'm at every young men's activity, right? And this is a really small one, but you know, there's bucket list things, like things are still going on. I think it's important to pace yourself, right? Like our business is really heavy right now, but I'm still taking time for, you know, a bucket list trip, even in the middle of our busy season, right? And it's because, you know, I won't be able to get that back with my in-laws. You know, you look at life from that perspective, make yourself available to the Lord, make yourself available to family, you know, things like that. And it's a big deal. We all want to be able to have enough wealth and flexibility by the time our sons and daughters are playing high school sports. We can be there at 3:00 to coach up if we need to. You know, just little things like that. And obviously, missionary work's an obvious one later in life. If you can't retire, you can't go on a mission.
Yeah, I think of one of the reasons I really wanted to go into business was my dad. An example of my dad. My dad owned his own business. He was always self-employed. He never had someone tell him that he can't. If he wanted, like, there's still a big responsibility as a business owner to make sure things get done. But, you know, he came to my games.
He did.
You know, he came to my games and stuff. And so it's like, that's what I want more than anything. And is to be able to have that ability, that freedom to be able to go to your kids' games. You know, it's like something so small, but it's like, can you imagine missing that? My son's turning 4. I'm like freaking out.
Wow.
He's turning 4 this year.
It's so funny.
It just like, it really freaks me out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like 4 more years, he's 8? Like, are you kidding me? What's going on with time? Like, it's just so sketchy. And it's like, you know, you just take those moments where that we have to, like you said, make yourself available, serve your family. And maybe this, this might be a good like book, like self-help book, like just like one chapter maybe, but it's like in your schedule, instead of packing your schedule like every day to the brim, make sure you set apart like 30 minutes every day. That's like you schedule something for nothing, you know, so that if you need to have something like that comes up, like an opportunity, you can take it.
Yeah.
30 minutes is probably too short, but like we actually probably waste a lot of time.
It's funny. This is a topic that we talked about at the mastermind with Brody Fawcett.
Oh, really?
And it's called, people call it like, I'm going to botch this, but people call it like gray matter time or gray time.
Oh, gray matter.
Gray time, something like that. Basically, like the concept is you leave a chunk of your day for nothing, so you can brainstorm and like kind of like you're describing. Like for me, I kind of try to build that in as well, but oftentimes it gets eaten up, right? Like
Yeah, there's a lot. That can
I'll be honest. So I read this book called Vivid Vision, and I loved the book. Actually, on the way home from Brody's mastermind, I listened to this book on tape on my drive from Vegas to home. It was a short book. You should read it. It's you can do it on one drive.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah, Vivid Vision is basically like the idea of having a vision and putting it in writing and then having it implemented, because and it has to be from one person. It can't really be from like a boardroom, because then it's like a compromise. A vivid vision has to be like the Declaration of Independence for your life, and it has to be from one person. And you can have one for your business and one for your personal life and one for your marriage, but it's basically like putting your dream into writing and then turning it over to everybody in your business so that no one gets confused about what the vision is, right? So if everyone has a copy of the vivid vision, if it's on the wall of the business, then everyone's unified basically. And what you're supposed to do is carve out like a couple hours. And I'm pretty good at carving out a couple hours. Like me and my wife take time to go do a goal setting thing for 1 weekend a year, right? So I know how it's done. But with this vivid vision thing, it's like I've been trying to carve out a couple hours for a couple weeks, couple months, and I still haven't, right? But it goes back to this gray matter time is just time to really think deeply, like ponder. And I don't know, it's controversial because sometimes I think I do that and then I feel lazy, right? But you have to have that relationship with the intention behind your free time. You have to think of it as like there's a purpose behind it. That's why it's so hard to carve out a half an hour a day. It's because there's so many other things you could fill it with.
Yeah, and especially that group of people, that type of human being that is very driven by, I don't know if busyness is the right word, but it's like by that fulfillingness of always having something to do and these high priorities. And so, to sit down and have nothing to do can drive you crazy. But for those people, a solution, which makes sense, like Brody, a solution is that it's scheduled and you attach a value and a meaning to that enough that you actually can just like, you can feel not guilty for doing it. That sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's imagine how much better we would be as human beings if we took time to ponder and to think about life. I mean, how much time do we spend watching TV, scrolling on our phones? I mean, I mentioned before, like, I think some of my, like, like with social media, like I did like a couple posts the other day. You saw them.
I saw them. It was like the first time in years. It's beautiful.
Did you like them? Where were you?
Yeah,
did you have something you're gonna make fun of?
No, I'm not making fun. I'm just saying, like, it's the only reason it's funny is because I knew what's going through your head. Like, I know you so well. It's like you always say, like, oh, I need to start posting on social media. Because for you, it's like the opposite of most people, where most people post too much. You don't post enough. And I knew that you posted intentionally because I know you so well.
Well, it took me forever to post.
I know, that's the funniest part.
It's like it took me, because stuff I think is funny. Like I think of like movie clips all the time. You know, so I like that's stuff that I think is funny and enjoyable. But yeah, I'm just like, so I have a lot I do have a lot of problems. We don't have to get into all those, but it's like
you don't have problems.
After I posted the other day, I'm like, this is exactly why I freaking hate social media. I never post because it takes forever to do. It's like it wasted my. It's like that was just a big waste of my time.
Well,
but it's not. There's so much value in social media. Like I get it. It's one of those things. There's so many things you learn something, you know something, you don't do it right. Yeah. We do that in so much. There's so many things that we know, we understand, we don't implement. That's the difference between knowledge and intelligence. Have you ever heard that? David A. Bednar has said the difference between knowledge and intelligence is knowledge applied. It's someone who acts on knowledge. That's an intelligent person, because, and it's true, people that we learn so much amazing things. We know how to take care of our bodies. We know exercise is important. We know sunlight, sleep, all these things, but we don't always apply those things in our life.
Yeah. The funniest part about you posting on social media wasn't actually what you posted. What you posted was great, but it's just I knew I was laughing to myself like about how much work that was for you. And I just know you so well that it's like,
Yeah, it
oh
was
my
like an
gosh,
hour.
Callan finally did it. He's been working on this for a long time.
It took me like a freaking hour to do.
You're
like,
partially because you're perfectionist. That's part of it too. It takes perfect. Like my wife will work on one post for. Sometimes she'll, have a couple days in a row. She's still trying to like wrap this up. She's gotten way better. She'll post a lot faster now. But when she first started posting for her business, it's like, weren't you working on that post yesterday? Anyways.
Gosh, it drives me crazy that I literally drives me crazy. I'm like, I can't believe I took this much time just to post. I feel like you have to be methodical on stuff you do, you know, and maybe that like I said, I have a lot of problems, but I was like, man, I wasted so much of my freaking time.
Yeah. You'll catch on. It's not a waste of time. It's good. It's all good, man. I want to wrap just, I want to go circle back really quick to kind of the free time thing.
Sure.
And it's funny because they've been talking about Aaron Rodgers. Have you heard about this?
News? He
He locked himself in a cave. It's like it's kind of dramatic, but he was like trying to decide which team to sign for. And he ended up signing with the Jets, but like he was deciding to go back to the Packers, like all these different free agents all these different teams that wanted him. And he basically like paid buku bucks to go have this professionally built super black, no sound, no light, so he could just think. It's kind of dramatic, but anyways, that's what it reminded me of. But I think it's really true. Have a notebook, or like I use Asana now, thanks to my dispatcher Casey. But I use Asana to basically jot my thoughts down at night. And so I have some of my best epiphanies in bed. I'll just roll over, open up my phone, pull out Asana, and just make like bullet checklists. So it's good to have that free time and that time that you can just think without looking at a screen or being distracted.
It's so powerful, our minds, what we can do with just taking some time to think and how much we get done.
Yeah.
The inspiration that can come when we do that. And I just think that, man, if we spent less time, again, going back, if I spent that hour instead of like trying to post on social media, if I spent an hour like thinking, like how much more I would have. No, but that's a bad example. But it's like TV, phones, some of these distractions.
It's not posting that's a problem. It's consuming. It's the consuming social media.
Post and ghost.
Really, the secret is post and ghost. Like I'm not doing this actively. Like I can't say that I'm like an example of this. But when social media is the best is when you're the one producing it and not consuming it. You gotta consume a little bit sometimes, but that's why with
it's like a job to me.
That's why with the podcast we have it hired out, is because we honestly will get sucked into consuming it and being perfectionists about it.
Yeah.
And if it's assigned to someone else, then we're not victims of the consumption.
Well, that's exactly why I wanted to hire a company when we first started.
Yeah.
Because I knew that like if I didn't do that, I would have gotten lost in.
Oh yeah, I wasn't willing to do a podcast without help.
Yeah, I would have.
It's just not.
It's a lot
not
of
an option.
Yeah, it's just so much work itself. I think if we didn't have like distractions, what I was saying is like with TV and stuff.
Yeah.
Like just we probably consume so much in TV, which is fun. There's nothing wrong with it. I like to watch. You know, me and Maddie, we love watching movies and we love watching shows.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. We really, really do. I always think like, oh man, I'd be like so much more productive, probably a better person if I wasn't watching as much TV.
Yeah. And I have a controversial take on TV.
I feel like you never watch TV.
Really?
Do you ever watch TV?
Yeah.
You're always like laying in bed, writing stuff down in Asana. That's what I think of. I think, what time do you guys get to watch TV? Because I feel like you don't.
Just at night, dude, once Kinley's down. I mean, I don't think we watch probably TV like one night a week probably, but I also binge. Like I do like to binge. Yeah.
You only like you have the discipline. You only watch one night a week. You don't watch every night.
No, maybe it's a lie. I think it's different week on week.
Sure.
Yeah, it's different week on week, and anyways, maybe. Yeah, I think some weeks I'll watch more than others. Sometimes I'll go like a month without watching.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have like an addictive thing. over long periods of time. But if I sit down to watch a show, then I binge. It's just my personality. Like I could go like a long time without watching, but then when I sit down, I'm gonna watch a lot.
Like all day watching.
My favorite shows is like, you know, we have VidAngel for like Breaking Bad and Yellowstone, and then
Thank goodness for VidAngel.
yeah, but I also have there's a censored Game of Thrones website, and that when you start watching that, it's over. I've told you that a couple times.
I know. I worry about myself because I'll like once I start a task, I gotta finish it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I'm like you. So like I will be consumed by that. Like if I get into a show that's addictive like that, like
yeah.
I will want to watch it every single night, every single day, and I'm gonna get that thing done, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why I get very, very I'll try to put up fences for myself just to protect myself, but then sometimes I just like let it slip, and then it's like then you don't get sleep, you don't wake up to work out in the morning, and it's just like, okay, now I gotta get through this.
All you can think about is anime. Kallan watches anime. I'm outing him.
That's not true. Yesterday I was like, my brother. Okay, it sounds so dumb.
I'll
It
tell
sounds so
Kallan,
wrong.
like, dude, you gotta watch this edited Game of Thrones. It's gonna change your life. And then it's like, I can't get it sucked into it. And then we'll have another conversation. Be like, yeah, I just watched 9 seasons of anime last night. It was amazing.
It's really for my brother.
No, I'm glad you have that bonding
Yeah.
thing. Anime is your thing, dude.
It's not my thing. It's my brother's thing, but I do share a little bit of that. I'm not like a actual anime person. It's
not what your search history says. Just kidding.
like you've seen my search history.
Dude, I love you, man. I'm so grateful I'm so grateful you've done this, not only Big Storage Ventures, but the podcast, and like just getting to spend a lot of time with you and talk business, do business, hang out. You know, it's fun. I'm grateful that it's gone so well, even though it hasn't gone perfect. Like it hasn't been like roses and daisies. It's been a thrill, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you feel the same way.
I do, and I appreciate that. It's I'm grateful for you as well. I mean, I don't mean to get super sentimental on here and stuff, but I could do that. But no, I'm grateful to have the opportunity and to be a part of something so cool and so special, and I know the big sacrifices. You know, I actually feel guilty about that most of the time.
You can't feel guilty.
And I get worried about that sometimes. But I am grateful to be a part of the journey and everything I'm learning and get to be along the way.
Yeah. The value you provide is just, I mean, we talked about this several times, but you have all the strengths I have and more. Like you have a lot of the complementing things. So it's been good. And I'm grateful we got to just do some, I feel like today was like a really good reflection episode where we just could kind of talk about what we're going through, and maybe we should do a little bit more of that. But
yeah, it's fun to just talk about whatever we want to talk about sometimes,
Yeah. I'd be interested to hear if people like the guests more, or just hearing us ramble. But anyways, I've had a blast. Yeah, I'll check the stats.
We'll see if we're worth it or not. Probably not.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. March Madness is on. I know you don't listen to us till later, but that's what we're going to be checking out. So that's another episode of Beyond Net Worth.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for the support and being along with us in the journey. I mean, very grateful for that. So
Peace.